Parents and teens, today we have created college savings hacks that could save you tens of thousands of dollars, regardless if you qualify for financial aid. You're listening to Your Life Simplified. I'm Valerie Escobar, certified financial planner with Mariner Wealth Advisors. I am joined by Michael MacKelvie, also a certified financial planner. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. We're here to talk about saving money on college. I love this.
Awesome. I love it too, because you've got all the secrets you're going to tell us. What could we possibly do? How do we save thousands of dollars on paying for tuition?
Yeah. I think before we get into some of the hacks, we have to discuss the biggest barrier that there is here. And that is where you go to college seems to be greatly overestimated as far as the impact versus how you go to college. Well, that's greatly underestimated. And I'm not just trying actually to virtue signal as I share this. It truly is this way based on the data. So I think it's helpful to share a big study that was done, perhaps the biggest study that was done to showcase this, because where you go to college, well, that, some colleges, as you're staring right now and you're a parent, you're like, hey, that one costs like 70 grand and we're not getting any financial aid. That one over there is 25. Is there really that big of a difference? And you go to their website and you see how highly they're ranked and you're just like, well, I don't know. And the kid's saying, well, I want to go here, and it's emotional. Let's just get into how big of a difference this is, okay? Stacy Dale and Alan Kruger, two professors at Princeton, did quite possibly the largest study here. They looked at thousands of kids, roughly 19,000 kids, and they compared their incomes after they graduated. So kids that went to Ivy League or highly ranking schools were compared to kids that went to public schools. Private kids also compared to public school kids. And what they found was, yes, the highly ranked graduates, the kids that graduated from highly ranked schools or private schools, were making more than kids that graduated from public schools. That would seem to reinforce the rhetoric that's out there, right? And seem to reinforce, well, yeah, we should send our kid to this great institution, even though it costs $50,000 more a year. However, when we applied the appropriate controls that anyone would think to apply to a study, such as demographics, such as the student stats to avoid a selection bias issue, right? Again, any study would think to do this. The difference was statistically insignificant in income. So, for example, if we had a kid that cloned and one of them went to Penn and one of them went to Penn State, there would be no statistical significance in income 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the line based on the largest study. And the study was actually revisited in 2011. It was also mirrored and modeled in many other ways. No statistical difference. So we are doing a disservice to not talk about the biggest barrier to saving on college if we don't start this by saying, hey, it's how you go to college, not necessarily as much where. Major is obviously an impact, but most people are deciding what they're going to study, and then they're looking at a few different colleges, and one is maybe $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year. Another might be 20. So yeah, I think we need to touch on that barrier. And again, I share that story because this is something I'm hearing all the time right now. And parents are like, I don't know, like we're looking at these different colleges, like, what should we do? And it's an emotional experience, Valerie.
Absolutely. And Mike, I think one of the things that I try to have, a conversation that I try to have with my clients, with the parents, is that we're considering this college as an investment. Can I get a return on my investment? The kind of job that I will consider the income that we get on my job as the return, and the amount, the tuition is the amount of the investment. And so if I pay less and get the same kind of return versus having to pay more for an Ivy League and with the same return, that's a better return on investment. And so I think too, just really being cognizant of what is the career? What am I actually getting out of this as well?
Right. Yeah. And in that Ivy League example, like this is where, again, it's like the kid that gets into the Ivy League school legitimately is probably getting full rides from a lot of other institutions. So, it's like, should I be at the top of the class at the University of Oregon and get all these opportunities, or be one of, thousands at, let's say, Yale or Harvard or wherever it might be? Again, the data would show that it maybe is actually beneficial to consider the less expensive option, and you might actually get more opportunities afforded to you because you're at the top of that relative hierarchy, if you will. So I think it is important just to highlight that. Now, we're also here to talk about, I could go on and on about that. We're here to talk about some just quick tuition savings hacks that any student can deploy regardless if the family qualifies for financial aid. So is it okay if I give you 3, Valerie?
Yes, I think that will work.
I'm going to bounce through 3 of these, and you can interject if you got questions. But the first one here is tuition reimbursement plans. It's like, what the heck is that? That's when your employer pays for college. Okay. So one, if you're a parent and you're listening to this, check and see, hey, does my employer have any deals where they might cover a little bit of college? I would check into that. But for the kid, you can go work for somebody who will be tax incentivized to pay for your college. So for example, Starbucks, McDonald's, hundreds of large corporations will quite literally pay for you to go to college if you work there. Okay. So and I've seen this where kids go to an in-state school and they literally get their college paid for by doing this, right? They work 20, 30 hours a week at Starbucks. Starbucks says, hey, we'll foot the, $12,000, $13,000 tuition bill. Obviously you got living expenses you got to take care of after that. But hey, this is a good responsibility maybe for the kid to bear, because again, a lot of families we're talking to, they can pay for college. It's not going to maybe derail their entire life if they do, but it's also about setting good expectations for your kids and not saying, hey, we're just going to write a check for a few $100,000 and see what happens on the other side. Now, again, I'm not going to jump in and say, I'm going to be the parent here. I haven't gone through that rite of passage, but I do think setting that tone based on all of the experience I have is a good thing to do with your kid. And that's one option, a tuition reimbursement plan. If your employer doesn't offer that, if they maybe work for a smaller business, have them go talk to that employer. Have them say, hey, I maybe could get, a tax benefit for you if we just restructure pay. I mean, they'll probably impress that employer, Valerie.
Absolutely. And I would add too that sometimes, kids don't necessarily go to college right out of the gate. And so when they maybe get a job in an industry that they find interesting, then that could be where they're starting to grow up in that industry. And then at that point that employer will say, okay, now I want you to learn more about our industry and help with making some of those tuition payments.
Yeah. So, and that can happen on the other side with loans, but at least while you're in college, a reimbursement plan is definitely something to, at least look at, and that can help foot the bill. The second one is considering, becoming, if you have an interest, because a lot of kids have interest in sports, a team manager of some sorts. Okay. So this is just like a quick little hack here. You could maybe become the team manager of, and I'll use an example of my friend who went to Utah and did this. He became the women's basketball team manager. He walked away from the University of Utah, out of state school, with money in his pocket. His parents didn't pay for any of his college. Okay. So we're talking about roughly $25,000 to $30,000 equivalent per year of free college that he got by being the women's team manager. So, maybe seek this out, go to the athletics office, and here's a little, I would say 201 hack to this, because you might do that and they say all positions are full. Well, yeah, sought after positions are going to be full. That's going to continue for the rest of your life. But what you can do is say, well, hey, would you kindly, maybe just let me know when the next position opens up. I'm going to leave my name and number, and they're probably not going to follow up with you. So a month later, give them a call. Hey, I just want to see if anything opened up. People leave college. That's something that does happen. I know it might seem like they stay there forever nowadays, but eventually they do. So you'll see changes semester to semester and even within the semester. So keep in touch with that athletic department. Can be a great way to pay for school, Valerie.
Very cool. Yeah. And so, within your school, any other tips on where you could potentially find work that's related to your education, what you're interested in?
So it's not just athletics. I mean, these opportunities exist in many other fields, right? Whether it's, something in drama, something in the theater realm, which I'm just less versed in. But there's definitely opportunities there that you can also look into. Similarly, in the research realm, maybe as you're progressing through some type of STEM field, there's opportunities to get similar backing in the form of a scholarship, right? A little bit more competitive, but you can get different types of scholarships as you work through, at different types of colleges. If you're maybe going more into the research field, but again, it kind of depends on what domain that you're looking into. But I would say the athletics one, even if you're not like gung ho about athletics, it can be a good opportunity to find some money. Last one I got is private scholarships. So, first I want to say the big misconception is that private scholarships are like how people, cut the cost more than any other way. It's the biggest savings opportunity there is. It can be a good savings opportunity. It can be a terrific savings opportunity for a very select crew of kids that are just wonderful students. That doesn't mean though that it can't be at least something that a kid can knock down $2,000-3,000 a year, let's say, in savings. Most of the savings opportunities are at the college itself through institutional scholarships, but private scholarships, I'm going to share a couple hacks. Did you have a question? Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to just ask you to clarify what's the difference between a public, if I'm talking about private scholarship, and we think on the opposite side is a public scholarship. So maybe clarify what that is.
Yeah, good question. So when I say private, I mean so non-institutional, so non-college. So there's college scholarships that are merit scholarships. So if you go to a private school, it'll say like $60,000 maybe, and you maybe get a discount through a merit scholarship of $20,000. That they give to anybody with a 3.5 or higher, right? These college pricing systems are insane, but basically it's a marketing tool where they discount the cost through merit scholarships. So private scholarships are different than that. That's like, hey, the local Key Club has a $500 scholarship, right? And I said local there because that's where you should start. One of the big problems is kids look to the national scholarships first. So they hop on the different national search engines, CapEx, let's just say, and they start digging into national scholarships that are highly competitive or have huge amounts, right? Rather than crafting a few essays and knocking out the local ones. So what I say always first is start local, right? So think of it like working out in circles. So you start first within your school. You go to the school counselor who's at a 400-to-1 ratio. So, be patient as far as time. And you say, hey, what are some of the local scholarships I should consider? And then you work out from there. Local, maybe district scholarships, then state, and then maybe national. Okay. Check and see if there's scholarships maybe through the parent's employer. But again, you want to do those local ones first because you have a much higher likelihood of winning the scholarship. There's less people obviously competing for it. But again, you just have a much higher likelihood of winning. And even if, it's a $500 or $1,000 scholarship, we're talking about kids that, comparatively, they might get $100 an hour from a time investment, return on investment standpoint, writing some essays for scholarships rather than, $15. I was at PF Chang's in college. I don't know where, teenagers may be working as much now. It seems like there's a lot of openings out there, but the point being is you could make more money writing a few essays than directing that time to some part-time job, at least for the local ones. I would expect between 3,000 and 5,000 reasonably in savings there for you. And if you have a stellar student, knock out those national ones and maybe find even more.
Yeah. And I've seen, it's been a minute, but I have heard and seen services that offer going out and scouring scholarships and maybe even submitting them on your child's behalf for a fee, of course. What are your thoughts on that?
I just think that there's, that's one opportunity. I think if you're going that route, and you're going to pay for a professional, maybe working with a specialist that's going to have to help you craft the essay. So there's different like admissions advisors, if you will, and there's some that will literally just help you with writing the essay. And I do think that can be worthwhile and helpful, depending on the program. But, as far as somebody that's like literally just writing the entire essay for you, that's actually why we rolled out Chat GPT 4. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. I would be less willing to say that's a great idea as far as just hiring somebody to do the entire thing, and more willing to say, consult with somebody and be willing to maybe pay for somebody to consult and help you write these essays. That might be more helpful route.
Okay, perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mike. This is always such a daunting task because these numbers are big and growing like
Big.
crazy. So, knocking down that dollar is going to be huge for parents and kids alike. You have been listening to Your Life Simplified. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Valerie Escobar, and this is Michael MacKelvie. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you are tuning in, and we hope to see you next time.
Mariner Wealth Advisors, or MWA, is an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Kansas. Registration of an investment advisor does not imply a certain level of skill or training. MWA is in compliance with the current notice filing requirements imposed upon registered investment advisors by those states in which MWA maintains clients. MWA may only transact business in those states in which it is notice filed or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from notice filing requirements. Any subsequent direct communication by MWA with a prospective client shall be conducted by a representative that is either registered or qualifies for an exemption or exclusion from registration in the state where the prospective client resides. For additional information about MWA, including fees and services, please contact MWA or refer to the Investment Advisor Public Disclosure website at www.advisorinfo.sec.gov. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money. The views expressed in this podcast is for educational purposes only and do not take into account any individual personal, financial, legal, or tax considerations. As such, the information contained herein is not intended to be personal, legal, investment, or tax advice. Nothing herein should be relied upon as such, and there is no guarantee that any claims made will come to pass. The opinions are based on information and sources of information deemed to be reliable, but Mariner Wealth Advisors does not warrant the accuracy of the information. Asset allocation diversification is a strategy designed to manage risk, but it cannot ensure a profit or protect against a loss in a declining market. Certified Financial Planner, trademark, CFP, registered trademark, and federally registered CFP with flame design marks, collectively the CFP registered marks, are professional certification marks granted in the United States by Certified Financial Planner Board of Standards, Inc., also CFP Board. The CFP registered trademark certification is a voluntary certification. No federal or state law or regulation requires financial planners to hold the CFP certification.